Okay, so we've been looking at JavaScript for the past few days, and today, the last meeting that we met, I believe that we covered objects in JavaScript. So let me open the objects section. We went through all of this, and I believe we started talking about arrays also. So as I'm going through these notes, I don't see anywhere that arrays are mentioned. So clearly we didn't cover array in this particular tutorial. So let's go to the next one here. So yeah. So this is JavaScript arrays. I believe that we started this last week or the last day that we had a class. Then we just went through some of these examples. You have an array of numbers, just gonna take a bunch of numbers, fruits. So I have one question. Do you guys know the key difference between arrays and objects in JavaScript? What is the key difference? Any difference that stick out to you?
So arrays is a list, right?
We can think of it as a list, yes. Yeah, in JavaScript, they are pretty much the same. There's no difference, yes. And what about object? So I want to open it here also so you guys can see. So this is the structure of an object in JavaScript, right? It has key values, key value pairs. And we use that to store collection of objects also, collection of data. So of course, collection of data about something, right? So this is collection of data about a person, collection of data about something. And arrays are the same. The only thing is that, see, we have collection of data, but we don't see the keys over here. So we see the values, which is the data. And then I said that the keys are explicitly defined. The keys are there, you don't see it. No, it's not explicit, implicit. Explicit definition of keys means that you have to define it explicitly like this. Like you can see what the key is. But the array, you don't see the keys, but they are there. And it's the indexes. We call it index 0. It always begins from 0, 1, 2, and 3, like that. So actually what I wanted you to say is that with objects, we have the keys, we have explicit definition of keys. And then in arrays, we don't define the keys. We don't define the keys. And then objects are written in this vertical fashion, objects, but arrays are written in horizontal fashion like this. But both of them are used to store a collection of data, right? Can you guys see that this is a collection of data?
Yes.
Yes, it's a collection because it's not just one data. It's a bunch of them grouped into one variable called fruits. And another important thing we talked about, you always want to be able to access the data. So in computer science, you create the data for the code. Coding is nothing but operations on data. So once you create the data like this, you have to be able to read from it, and then you have to be able to modify the data. So the ability to access an element of this array is very, very important. Let's say that you want to change this data here. If you can't access it, you cannot change it. The first point to changing this data is to access it. So you can say numbers at, you use this parenthesis over here, and then you specify the index, right? So 0 gives you this. If you put, say, if I had put, say, 2 over here, what do you think I would get from here? What data will I get? So I believe this is more like a function, you know. So this is numbers. What is numbers? Numbers is this list over here.
If you put 2 there, you would get 3.
0, 1, 2. Yes, I'm gonna get 3 over here. What if I put 4? If I put 4 over here, what would I get?
5.
5. Perfect. So now, what is fruits 0? Fruits at position 0. What is this gonna give me?
Apple.
Apple.
0 is gonna give me apple. Yes. So you can see now here modifying the array elements. After you specify the position that you want to modify, you can use the equal sign and then assign something there. So once you do this, you are saying that in the fruits array at index 0, I want to put pear over there. So if there is apple, this is going to replace the apple. The pear will replace the apple. So now if you print fruits, look at what you are getting. At the position 0, you no longer have apple there. You can see. So this is the operation on the arrays. It's very, very important, right? Because everything is about data, everything. Today here you are changing it. You may be doing something else with it. You can do a whole lot with the data. So yeah.
So it would never go back to Apple again?
It would never go back to Apple again. You changed it. It will never be Apple again. You lost the apple. So, you know, that's that. Good question. What the length of an array? So sometimes you want to know the length of the array, because if you are looping through the array and then you are printing every element of the array, you want to know the end of the array so that you can stop over there. If you're looping through the array, you want to know where it ends. Otherwise, you're going to keep looping and there is nothing there. So that's going to be an error. The code will give you an error that way. So if you want to know the length of the array, you use this I believe this is a property. This is a property of arrays. If you call the dot length, it's going to give you the length of the array. That's just the way it is. So yeah, maybe as we go on, we're going to understand how this works, you know, behind the hood, right? All right. Because this is very, very similar to an object. The array is an object that we didn't define. We didn't define it. Like if you look at this object over here, a person, we have all these properties. So, I mean, especially, and then if you create an instance of, like, let's use this one. This one is much better because it is a function. This is a function. So you can create an instance of this function. So this one is not a function. It's just a pure object. There is no function. So you cannot create an instance of it. But see this one. Because this is a function, we can create an object called John, and we just have to give his first name, his last name, and his age. You know, so you say new person, and then you pass these parameters. It's gonna create a person object like this, and the name is gonna be John. So now, if I want to know the age of John, I have to say John.age.
Okay.
John.age is gonna give you the age of John. So in the same way, arrays are also objects that are defined in the code somewhere. We didn't do it. And they have one property called the length of it. So once you are doing this, if you do this, can you see how similar this is to this one? How similar that is to this one? Say constant John, new person. And if you want to declare an array, you are saying constant numbers, and then you pass your data. It's the same thing that you're doing. So once you do this, the length is a property that is available to you, and you can always call it to know the length of elements in the array. It's just too much talk. Don't worry about it too much. So over here, we want to add elements. So, you know, you already created your fruits array. What if you want to add another element to it? You don't always have to go back into the beginning of the code and add it over there, because sometimes you don't even know what you want to add. Maybe you want to add you have two fruits, but you don't know which one to put over here. So you have to check in the code whether certain condition is met. And then based on that condition, you decide on what you want to add to the list. So once you know what you want to add to the list, you can just say push. This is a push. This is another method that we can use. You call the name of the fruit, the name of the array, you just say dot push. And then you can specify whatever you want to push onto it. So once you push something onto the array, it's going to be put at the end of the array. You would think that you're going to put it at the beginning of the array, but it has to go to the end of the array. If I push another thing onto it, it won't come to the front, it will go to the back. And another way you can look at it, so this is position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going this way. The index is growing this way. So that kind of makes sense why if you call the push method, it's going to put whatever, you know, fruits you're putting on it at the end of it. So, you know, these are things that you can't, once you start writing the code yourself, it's easy for you to, you know, remember these things. And if you forget, you can just Google, how can I put an element into an array? Just ask it whatever way you understand, and they will show you the syntax, and then you just use it. So what if you want to remove something from the list? So there are two ways of doing that. The pop is a pretty famous method. So fruits.pop. See, so you see how you push something onto it, it goes to the end. If you pop something from it, they take it from the beginning. Did they take it from the back too? Apparently they take it from the back as well. So in some languages, if you pop, they're gonna take it from the front. But so if you want to remove the last item on the list, last item, just use the pop. Can you see that this is a very static way of removing something from it? You cannot say that I want to remove banana. You have to, if you call pop, it's just going to remove the last element on the list. So what if you want to remove something specific from the array? Now you don't want to just remove the last element. You want to remove something. You want to have control over the way you're removing the thing. Then you have to use the splice method. So you see, I'm calling them methods and properties and stuff like that. So this is a method also. This is a method as well. So what is a method? Method is what? It's the same as a function, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the function is attached to an object, then we call it a method. So you can see this is an object and it has functions in there. So this function, we don't call it function, we call it a method. Yeah, and especially if you look at here too, we have so many methods in there. And so many functions, but we call them method. If you call person.greet, then it's going to do this. I believe we went through this code, right? It's going to check if it is a student. If it is, then it's, you know, stuff like that. So you can read the code and, you know, I believe you would firmly understand these things. So the splice, the way it works is that you have to specify the index. So I feel like you have to specify how many elements you want to remove from the array. You can put 2 here. Say I want to remove 2 elements. Then they say, what index do you want me to begin from? Right? So you specify the index. So this one says remove 1 element starting from index number 1. So the question is, how many elements do you think is going to be removed from here? just going to remove one element, right?
Mhm.
Or one data or one value. So now look, this is what our list is looking at. After you execute this code, it's going to begin from, this is index number 1, and then it's going to remove one element from it. So it's going to kick banana out. And then you're going to have only this left. If I had said remove 2 elements starting from index 1, then it's going to remove these 2. So these are things you don't have any control over. The code is given to you. You just have to understand how to use them, and then you use it, right?
Mhm.
So what about iterating through arrays? Iterate. So in coding, when we say to iterate or iterate through something, what does it mean? So this iterate is an important word that we need to remember all the time. Like the way we understand looping, we should also understand iterate. It's kind of similar to looping in a way, right? So when I did math, and then sometimes they give you some problems to solve, and then they give you a stopping criteria. A stopping criteria means that they tell you keep doing the same thing over and over again until a certain condition is met. If that condition is met, then you stop. So anytime you do that thing, you have to check the condition. Have I met the condition? If the answer is no, then you start again, second iteration. Then you do it, then you check the condition. If the condition is not met, then you go to the third iteration like that. So in coding, when you say to iterate through something, it means that you are stepping through it one by one. You know, but in a way, you're doing one thing over and over again as you step through the code. So there are 2 ways of doing it. In this case, we have the for loop, and then we have the forEach loop. So the for loop, we have seen this before, right? In the introduction to programming.
Mhm.
So you just have to start a counter. So let I equal 0. So when you see this let, does it scare you?
No,
Could I have said const here?
no.
Why not?
I just know that it's usually written as let.
I'm sorry, Afi.
I thought it was just usually written as let. Like
So, sorry,
for
please.
for the loops.
Actually, there is a reason why you cannot use const over here. Well, you can use var also. Remember, we have 2 ways of
Value variable.
variable. So let me copy this code to our place so we can play with it. I know we're gonna get to loops again. So why don't I just create a new file for today? So I'm gonna call it day6.html. And then in here, let's just hit tab and get a boilerplate, and then just put our script tag here. We're gonna write our code in here. So if I paste what I just copied, okay. I'm trying to do indentation, of the code. Just arranging it so that they look good. That's all. And once they look good, you can read it easily also. So what are the 3 ways of creating variables in JavaScript? Creating a variable. We can use the var, right? The var keyword.
Yeah.
A variable. And then you can assign anything you want because it's JavaScript. And then we said that this one has a limitation because of the scopes. But and because of the limitation, they give us 2 other ways of doing it. You can say let var equals 8. And then the other one is const var equals 7. Now, I have a question. Why do they have a problem here? Oh, so do you guys know why there is a problem here? Look at read the error over there.
var is not allowed as a variable declaration name.
You know why they can't allow you to use this var over here? Because it is a
I've used it already.
No, the var is a keyword that the JavaScript code is using. So if they allow you to create your variable using that name, it's going to cause confusion. So you can see that when you're writing code, you have something to work with, right? They give you some variables, some commands. So this var is a command in the language. Anytime you say var, the code knows that you are about to create a variable. So now you want to create a variable. They say use any name that you want, but don't use a name that is a reserved keyword for the language because it's going to create confusion. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why you cannot use var here. You can say var1, and they are okay with it. So like constant is a keyword and it has a meaning in the code. So they can't let you use that the way you want. That's the point. So now the question is, what is the difference between these two declarations? See, for var, you can use it for anything. It doesn't respect any boundaries. You just use it. It's just almighty way of creating variables. It only has one small weakness, that's all. Other than that, you can always use this and you have no problem. But in computer science, anytime you have a lot of flexibility, we said that could be problematic for you because flexibilities, you can abuse them. So you are likely to create buggy code if you have a lot of flexibility. So these two here don't give you too much flexibilities. But so what is the difference between these two ways of declaring variables? Do you guys know?
No.
Okay, I'll help. If you say something is a constant, what does it mean?
Always happening? Or stays the same?
Stays the same, yes. In other words, what does it mean? It doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change. So in coding, if you create a variable and you say it's a constant, now you cannot, in the code, you cannot go back and say var1 equals 5. This is wrong. You can't do that. Because when you declared it, you told us it is a constant. So why are you changing it? The value cannot change. So if you are creating a variable that the value won't change, you are 100% sure that the value won't change, then you don't use let. You have to use const. So that tomorrow, if somebody is trying to change it, the code will yell at them. So that is the power of using the const. If you are 100% sure that it won't change. So like sometimes, let's say you are in a company, you want to write code about your hourly rate, for instance. What is my hourly rate? So this is something that won't change. Say for a long time, you're going to be paid $14 per hour. So you have to declare that as a constant because it's not going to change in the code, you know. So there are many instances, like if you want to write your name will not change, right? That's the way your name is. You can use constant. Sometimes your name can change, so you don't want to use constant over there. But we use it when you're 100% sure that the thing won't change. Now for let means that it can change at any time. So this one is more flexible for you. Okay, so now let's go back to what we were doing. Over here in the for loop, when we say let I equals 0, we are initializing a variable called I. At the first time, we say let the value be 0. And then we're saying, this is just a syntax. We just have to do what the syntax wants us to do. And then you have to also tell us when this for loop should stop iterating. So now you're saying when I is less than numbers.length. What is numbers.length? This is the number of elements in the array, right?
Mm-hmm.
So while you want to keep doing this while this condition is true. As soon as this condition is false, you want to stop the loop. And then I++. What does this one do?
It's just adding on to the next one.
What do you mean by adding on? It adds 1 to the value.
Yeah.
It adds 1 to the value of I. So you can see that when you started, I is 0. Then once this is executed, it's going to add 1 to it. Is it 0? No, it's no longer 0. It's going to be 1. So if you make this const, it's not going to work. You cannot be changing constant like that. And what are we doing? We are printing numbers I. So numbers I. Who can interpret what this will do? Like, who can interpret what this will do and justify why it's going to do that? Right? I'm waiting. Just like tell me the output. That's all.
Did we pick one of those?
I'm just asking for what this code is going to do. Like, especially this side, console.log numbers I. What is this gonna do?
So it's
Numbers,
gonna,
look at the numbers too. Sorry, this is numbers.
yep. So the numbers, but that one says constants, right?
I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, we can see the code here, so don't worry. Everything is here. So let's just, this is your numbers list or array. And then I'm trying to execute this code. What do you think it's going to do?
So we declare that the index is 0. So it's going to start from 1. So it's going to print out, and after it runs the first one, which is 1, it's going to go back again
Yeah.
and make sure that the number length isn't greater than 5.
Okay.
So since it's not greater, then it's going to print number 2 because the index plus plus.
Okay. Yeah.
Will print 2.
So you are saying that because this one says that I should begin from 0. That 0 is going to be put in here. And then it's going to go into the numbers list and check what is at the index 0, which is 1. So it's going to print 1. Okay. And then I will increase to what? 1. And then it will put that 1 here. Then it will go back. What is in the number at index 1, which is 2?
2.
It will print 2. Then what will it? That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And it will keep going until it prints number 5, right?
Yes.
That is exactly what it's going to do. Perfect. What do you call it? Justina, you understand that one?
Yes.
It's just a loop, right? It's just a loop. You're looping through the numbers and you are printing every element in there. That is what this means. So here is just a syntax, so you don't want to worry too much. Just focus on that. So now I have a question. What if I want to print the square of the numbers in the list? So I want to print the square of the numbers. If I say the square of a number, we understand that, right?
Power of 2.
Power of 2. But so now if you say power of 2, that's perfect. So 2 power 2, for instance, does it also means 2 times 2? It does, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and then 5 power 2 also means 5 by 5.
5.
So that one is easier. It's easier to code this one here than to try to do the power of. But of course, there is a way to do power of. You can Google the power of also in JavaScript and then use it. So can somebody try how to print the power of every number in here? I mean the square of every number in there. Okay, you are thinking, so I will just do this. Why don't you just do numbers I times numbers I? That's it.
Mm.
Right? That's exactly what you should do. Because again, you'll be asking yourself, why am I doing this? Sometimes in the code, that's exactly what you need. The numbers that are coming, you need to have them doubled before you can do what you want to do. So let's print this. No, let's check the console. So, it's like, what am I trying to do? Then you look at the numbers. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, like that, up to 25. And then, of course, the forEach is going through the fruits. So the forEach is just another type of loop. I mean, we probably will see it again, or maybe we covered it. I'm not sure. So the forEach, instead of doing this for loop, which is a little too much code, you can see, declaring all these variables and all, the forEach just say, once you say dot forEach, you can now declare this function in here. If you say function fruit, it's like this is gonna pick every item and gives it to you. Whatever name you give here is fine. They leave that to you to give any name here. But it will give you one item at a time. It will give you one item from the list to you here at a time. So once you get that, what do you do with it? Here you are just printing it. But you could have done something else to it. It's all up to you. So now I have one quick question. We have constant fruits over here. Let's try to do fruits.pop. Let's do it up here. Fruits.pop. As I said, this is a method. What is it going to do? It's going to remove one element from the array. Do you think I can do this?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Oh, because it's a constant?
Yeah, because it's a constant, I shouldn't be able to do this. So let's see if that works. Right? Constant means it won't change. So you can't change it. You can't change anything from it. So that's the authority of constant. It will probably yell at us, but let's see. If it doesn't yell, it's going to remove orange from it, and then we're only going to have 2 of this printed. So it's printing 2. It didn't yell at us. That is a little crazy. See, it didn't yell. It printed it. So it's a little concerning. Okay, why don't we do one test? I'm gonna create a variable, call it const var1 equals 7. And let's print it, console.log. So I'll do one more thing before we leave. I'll make sure, I'm trying to lay some foundations that are very important to me. So now let me set var1 equals, I just want to verify what is happening here. And then let me try to print it again. Because it's a constant, they shouldn't let me do this. So I'm not expecting this to become 5. I just want to test it. Sometimes whatever you are feeling, your ability to test it in the code is very, very good. Oh yeah, you can see the first time it printed a 7, but the second one it says invalid assignment of const variable. So that's it, you cannot change it. But in the case of the list, it allowed me to change it. That's very tricky. I don't know why. It shouldn't allow me to do it. Okay. So now, friends, before we come back, I know we're going to be out of here in 10 minutes, then we'll have to restart again. When you're writing code, don't be scared. All that you're doing, first of all, you are thinking about how to create a variable. We all know how to do it. And then, you create variables, you can print it out and stuff like that. And if you know how to loop through if you can create lists and objects, that is very, very good. Like, you are really doing great. Like, this is coding of the highest order, right? You're able to look through you create a list and then loop through it. This is incredible. Then you can also create a function. So you can give it a name, my func. And then when you create a function, you can decide whether to give it an argument or not. This one, let's not give it any argument. And then it's a function, it has to do something. You can say console.log, console.log. Like, I'm just trying to show you how you can play with code and not be scared. Like, this right now we are just doing something basic, but you may want to do something more complex in here. But at the end of the day, all that you're doing is that you're creating a function. And then once you have a function created, we realize that it's not going to do anything unless you call it. So you can create a variable, say my result equals my func. And do we need this? You may probably do. And then now you can say console.log results. Like, I'm trying to show you the things you can do without thinking, and you can be bold that what I'm doing will work. Like, if you can go through this process, create a variable, or even create a function and call the function, and then understand that this function is going to give you something, and print that thing out. This is incredible. So actually, this is not returning anything, so there is nothing for you to catch over here. So usually, let's make it return something. It all depends on what you're doing. You don't have to assign the variable. You can just call it just like that. If you do this, you are calling the function. But this one doesn't return anything. So, but you can create another function that returns something. You can say my func1. And instead of printing hello world, you can just return it. Has the meeting ended?
No.
Okay, thank you. And say return. It's a string, so just put it in the quotation marks. So now, hello world number 222. Now you can assign this here because it's gonna give you this string back. So you have to put it somewhere. You want it to give it back, so you need to put it in something. So you put it in this variable, and then you can print that variable here. Now the question is, if I print this code, what will I get in the browser? I need you guys to tell me. And let me comment this out. So these are the powerful basics that we all should know. And once you know this, you can be very proud of yourself that you can understand a lot of code when you read them. And if you play with it long enough, you can also code anything you want. So this code here, can you guys tell me what it is going to print? So ignore these ones also.
We have less than a minute.
Oh, less than a minute. Okay, it's all right. We'll get there. So go back. It looks like we'll come back and continue, but you guys can think about it. Let's see. What do you think this is going to print in the console? Remember, it's a good thing to always know what the code is going to print. It's important, right? What will be the output in the console if I execute this code? It's gonna these are all constants, so it's gonna be ignored. Just be bold and read it. That's all.
So